This episode of the Good Ship Brothership is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda, empower the drive. Mazda, it's what makes a Mazda a Mazda. So.
On the show. I feel like it could be kind of gross.
True.
And although that is just what I do in the home environment, I feel like pushing out burps on a live broadcast like this, going out over the airwaves of the CBC, could be.
I imagine the show is like a beautiful woman sitting in the room with us. You wouldn't push it. Well, you shouldn't push out one of those burps.
It really depends on who the lady was and what I wanted to achieve.
Holy matrimony?
Well, I mean, if you have a... Yeah, I don't know. You got me there.
Welcome to the Good Ship Brothership episode 9.
Yes.
My name is...
Jason.
And his name is Grant. What are we talking about today, Grant?
You totally botched the intro. It's you're listening to the Good Ship Brothership, the only podcast that covers... Okay. I'm so sorry. We need to open the dialogue.
Welcome to Car Talk. Okay, where is it?
You're listening to CBC Radio 1, the only podcast that covers the far left and the far left. Brothership? Brothership intro. Okay. You're aboard the Good Ship Brothership, the only arts podcast that covers film, music, gaming, and literature, and Charlotte's Web. I'm Jason, and this is my brother,
Grant.
Samad.
What are we talking about today? Today we're talking about the hit movie Jaws and the hit album Automaton by Jamiroquai.
Yes.
I don't know that it's... Jamiroquai is one of those guys who's definitely not like indie, but he's also not super huge.
He's cult.
Yeah, I guess.
He's got a pervasive cult following, and I'd say he's pretty mainstreamy.
I mean, guess.
You don't hear him.
But he's not like mainstream.
No, but he's at the very upper end of cult status.
You know, I went to Zare's yesterday, walked in. They were playing Amy Grant from that...
Really?
What's that black and white? Like, no, like, it takes a little time. So, and I was like...
the same album?
Yeah.
Is that the one that they were playing?
Yeah. And I was like, could be worse.
Some 90s Amy Grant.
Amy Grant, someone... I feel like we'll never actually review Amy Grant, but pretty decent.
No, we won't. Sorry.
It's okay. You got a little too excited for a second.
Yeah. That's my excited music.
Okay, shall we get into it?
Yeah.
We're recording this maybe later than we've recorded any others. It's 10:30.
We recorded one.
That's true.
On the Thursday, though. That one was probably not your fault.
This one wasn't my fault.
It was your fault.
No, it wasn't.
I'm blaming this
It was not my fault.
on you. Yes, it was.
It's not that it wasn't not my fault.
Oh,
it just wasn't my fault either.
That's the backpedalist thing I've ever heard.
It was a joint fault.
Okay, let's flip the puppet.
We all have at least one fault, don't we?
It was Jason's fault.
No, it wasn't.
Is going
Let me flip the puppet.
You're not going to flip the puppet if this is your fault. Okay.
But what if I bought you cookies?
Face up, you didn't. Face up is Jamiroquai, and face down is...
I bought cookies.
Jaws. You didn't, or else they'd be out here now.
Maybe I'll get them.
Sure, yeah.
I'll get them when we play the theme music,
We're going to do Jamiroquai first. But first...
Time for me to get the cookies.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, Jason's going to go... I can't remember what number it is.
Once the theme music...
Oh, that's not it. Hold on.
99?
Yeah, no, it's 98. See, that'll mess a man up.
Should I...
Yeah, go get the cookies. Yeah. Go find the cookies, Jason, you lying lizard. You absolute lizard. Oh! I've never been so wrong.
I have cookies! I love myself!
Why did you lie to me?
I didn't. I said
You did. You lied with your eyes. Your mouth said you had cookies, your eyes said you didn't, and your brain, your body did.
He's an older brother, so he's conditioned to not believe everything I say. So a lot of times the easiest way to deceive him is just to tell him the truth.
I'm gonna do the intro again because this is when we're supposed to do it. You're aboard the Good Ship Brothership, the only art podcast that covers film, music, gaming, literature, and turbo speeding. Right, this is my brother Jason, and today we're talking about Jamiroquai and some movie that nobody's seen. Did you like that?
Turbo speeding. Literally me.
Okay, you get to choose who goes first on Jamiroquai because I told you were lying and I was wrong.
Okay.
That, and I'm sorry. On the record, I'm sorry.
You can have a cookie. Maybe you can give me a toonie afterwards. Because these are really expensive. The gluten-free cookies are ridiculously expensive.
We are gluten-free. This looks like a good vintage. These are Oreo-style cookies. This looks like a good vintage. The creams looks very smooth and uniform across them all. And normally it looks like it was hand-applied with like a
Which is
fork.
not a bad thing either. I'll start first. My notes for this are predictably scattered.
We're going so off the rails already. I can't believe it.
I just know that
Delicious.
the sun's coming up. It's gonna be a good morning.
Yep.
Okay. I'll start, and you can butt in because I don't. Normally, I type up a semi-scripted review and I just go off. This, I just have a bunch of point form stuff.
Like what I normally do.
Wow. Except I bought cookies. So, Automaton, overall, I really liked it a lot more than I thought I would.
Hold on.
Automaton is...
Yeah.
Is that what you're going to do?
We gotta describe it a little bit. Ed Chu. If you're listening to this, hello.
Edward.
I'm so sorry you had to see us like this. Ed wanted us to play samples of the music. Unfortunately, we have no Wi-Fi at the moment, so we can't. And so it's Jamiroquai. You heard a snippet of Nights Out in the Jungle a second ago. So go listen to that right now. Welcome back.
So, Jamiroquai is a EDM, would you say is fair?
I'd say he's
electropop,
retro-infused dance music. Very, very obvious in your face disco influence. If you've seen Napoleon Dynamite dances to a Jamiroquai song at the end of Napoleon Dynamite, and spoilers. And that's a pretty representative tune, I'd say.
And when was the last time you put out another album?
7 years ago, I think.
So this is kind of his like return to glory.
It is a band.
Yeah. I just always think of it as it's like The Weeknd. You know, I'm always like there are 20 of them, and then it's just his hair deceives me.
Also, before we dive into this, I know I keep cutting you off. I'm sorry, but we should say Toby Smith, Jamiroquai's keyboardist, passed away tragically. And I don't know what the cause of death was yet, but he was 47 years old or 46 years old. And that,
good legacy,
like,
though.
Terrible. And like right after they released this new album, and what a comeback for them after like almost a decade being radio silent. They released this album, and it's been very well received, I think. So I don't know.
So I really didn't expect to like it very much. Normally I find music like this a little bit obnoxious and frankly like unmusical is how I've described it to people before. Like I'm just saying electronic music in general because I haven't delved into it much. This really surprised me and opened my mind a lot. I think it's taught me that there's a lot of advantages to an electronically based album that you just frankly can't get from analog. And I mean, the inverse is also true. But I think not many albums can really cover the entire sonic range like Automaton. Like, there's almost never a moment where there's an empty spot in the soundscape, you know? It's always like something's going...
It's very produced.
Yeah. But in a wonderful way, because it's just groove. Like,
it's interesting that you say that, because when we reviewed Awaken My Love by Childish Gambino back in episode number 1... that was one of our joint complaints about it, is that there were too few empty spaces and that it felt too layered.
But I feel like this album is about that full sound. I feel like Awaken My Love is sort of like, if you listen to Redbone, is sort of this more, or should be this more like empty kind of groove soul. But Jamiroquai is just about like a...
Jamiroquai is not soul.
No. And it doesn't have to be.
It's style.
Uh-huh.
Shameless plug for the Red Factor's
Quiet High
debut full-length album, Style and Soul, available
Sophomore
on
album.
platforms
Sophomore.
around you. The first one's an EP.
I think the album exudes style, both in terms of the sound itself, but also the music videos. I don't know, like, how many of the music videos did you watch?
I saw the one for Automaton.
Did you watch Cloud9's music video?
No, this is going to sound bad. I believe I watched part of it.
Ah.
I heard the song many times, but...
It's like beautifully shot. It's like
I know
him
what it looks like, yeah.
driving along in a Ferrari, and then there's the girl, and they're dancing, and then she's in this old Mercedes.
They're in a bar.
It's like beautifully shot. It kind of reminded me of Brandon Flowers' Lonely Town, just in like the colors. Not quite as good, but still pretty close.
Not anywhere near as
nothing's
good.
as good. We should do a topic on the best music videos sometimes.
We should.
That one.
Well, now we can't. Thank you.
Well, we still could. I think the title track's music video is like super vibrantly shot and intriguing and a great tone setter. I don't really know. I never really found like the story in it. It's just kind of him wandering around with his little helmet thing on. But I thought in terms of like a tone setter, mood piece, whatever you want to call it.
It is quite the hat he has.
That man. It's quite the sombrero. It's a robot sombrero. It looks like he has the Metroid on his head.
He looks sort of like a robot pine cone.
We're getting too off topic. I feel like it's bothering people. Somebody just turned off.
Nobody's listening to us.
I also do think it's an interesting mesh of analog and digital. Like in Something for About... I almost said Something for About You. Okay.
My favorite meme.
In the song, Something About You, there's this like post-processing layered on thicker than an inmate's Vegemite is what I put on here. I thought it was funny. Both stylistically and tonally. But then there's also this really tight, like distinctly human sounding bass that holds it all together. What? I'm trying.
I'm just wondering, is it tight like an inmate's Vegemite?
Yeah. No, there's like this really human tone to the bass. Like it's warm, but it's still like, sharp and well contained. And I found that very pleasing. And this is a bit self-indulgent, but I read car magazines, so I still put this down, and I'm still going to read it.
You don't think the inmate Vegemite thing was self-indulgent?
I thought that was funny, because it was making fun of Australians.
That's the laugh you get from me, sir.
Oh, okay.
Continue.
The only thing that legitimately got on my nerves was how samey all his vocals were. Like through the whole album,
okay,
I felt that his range, both stylistically and tonally, was
literally,
yeah. That's what I meant by tonally, but no.
I know what you mean.
But in terms of style and like literally, is like way too small. His voice is fine, but I think he just needs to really stretch himself a little bit more in terms of vocal department, and I found that like something that kind of pulled me out of this experience. Then the only other thing I have, which isn't really a complaint, but definitely an observation, it's way more a collection of songs than a coherent album. I mean, for sure there's a nice progression between the songs, but thematically there's no strong through narrative. But I mean, it's also possible I just haven't discovered it yet. And also, I don't think every album needs to be a big concept album. Sometimes it's enough just to have like 12, or is it 12?
Yeah.
Really groovy tracks. And my standout tracks I put down are Automaton, Cloud9, Night Out in the Jungle, and literally every other track. This is actually one of my favorite albums that we've reviewed so far.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't even find my...
If it had come out last year, when we did our top 5, where do you think it would have come? With Big Thief and
It would have
Vernon, what's his face? Justin Vernon. He's also
Vernon.
known by Bon Iver.
Oh.
Sorry, I couldn't think of the name.
I think... So Cohen and Bowie would both be ahead of this.
Yeah.
and then it would have been a tight race between Bon Iver and this.
Really?
And then Big Thief would be behind it.
Yikes! Wow.
So I really like.
Man, you really did like it.
So far, this is my favorite album of the year.
Okay. Wow.
And I found my little thing.
Well, you
I said
Kendrick yet.
And oh, that's true. And I said that this album sounds like the moment before the singularity. Humans are still in control of what's going on, but only just.
Okay. Well, I think I didn't like it as much as you, and here's why. Now, I should start off by saying we were talking about this. I mentioned this to you. We haven't done like any music that's
Risky for us.
that rotates around the lyrics, the poetry of the lyrics. And for me, as a musician and as a lyricist and as a writer, that's the kind of music that I tend to make. Excuse me. And that's the kind of music that I tend. Oh, jeez. As soon as you stop drinking tea and you stop drinking tea and you start talking, it's just all the gases.
Those tea bubbles, man.
I need to take off my toque. That's the kind of music that I gravitate toward. That's the kind of music that sticks with me, and that's the kind of music that I make. So, with that in mind, take what I say with a grain of salt, obviously. One thing that immediately bothered me about Automaton as an album title and as a lead single is how passé and redundant that theme has become, with Muse releasing an album called Drones, and everybody seems to be talking about, when will robots become smarter than us? When will they take over? And the answer to that, of course, is never. I don't think that's possible.
They might be smarter than us eventually, but they're not going to decide to
they
kill
can't
us.
outwit.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
I just wanted to put a non sequitur now that I'm thinking about this a bit more.
Go ahead and break my roll. Break my stride.
I would have to say that this album would go decently behind Bon Iver, but in front of Big Thief.
Okay.
Because I think they're similar sonically in terms of quality, but Bon Iver has way better writing. Anyways, continue.
So, initially upon watching the music video for Automaton, listening to the lyrics, and then watching an interview with J.K., the lead singer, I just thought...
Who's surprisingly Australian.
He's British, dude.
British?
Yeah.
I thought he liked Vegemite.
Okay, the door's over there, buddy. Wrong.
I brought you cookies.
Literally wrong continent. Leave the cookies here. You won't need them in prison. Wow, you totally threw me.
I only heard like 2 seconds of him talking, to be fair.
Let's get going. So I watched an interview with him, and I just thought it just seems like kind of a cop-out to, here's some meaning, and I'm in an electronic dance disco band, Automaton, robots, let's go. And it just seems like such low-hanging, and to be fair as well, JK is not a lyricist.
Mm-mm.
He's not in any way, shape, or form a poet. He is a style master. Yeah. And he's a master of image, visually speaking, with his hats that he wears.
It's a very visual experience, his music.
Very much so, yeah, which I totally appreciate and totally like. But I found that was a little passé, and it gave the whole album this kind of thematic facade of something deeper, that once you crack inside the shell, big surprise, it's all songs about girls and cars.
I was a little
just like the music.
Gotta admit, I was listening to this and I was like, these are a lot of songs about girls, and I mean, girls are nice and they make me a little sweat, but
they make you a little sweat.
Yeah, but I just don't. Is that the best you can do? Anyways,
but so I think that it was, in terms of choosing to use that as their marketing, as it were, I think that was a misstep, and I think that it's kind of, if you're gonna make a concept album about robots and the singularity and automatons and stuff, just do it. Just make a 7-track album, a 10-track album, and have a simple story about, say, a guy who falls in love with a robot, or I don't know. Like, you can still have your love songs and sing them too.
Frigate, you should have done Ex Machina with this.
Yeah, that would have been good.
That said, though,
Okay, if you don't have anything to say, step off.
I forgot what I was going to say.
I got an interview to blaze
I had
through
something
here.
good. Sorry, go ahead.
And what you said about his vocals definitely bothered me as well. He needs to stretch out a little bit more. He needs to belt out a little bit more. And the smoothness of the vocals, while it goes extremely nicely with the smoothness and the funkiness of the, the jangling, punchy electric guitar and the smooth silky bass lines and the layers and layers and layers of synth and those crunchy beats, the vocals became not lost, but they just became part of the furniture.
Yeah.
And there's really nothing wrong with that if you want to throw this album on, drive and dance and forget that you're in traffic. But for me, as somebody who likes to get past the facade of a song, of an album, of a band, that's the joy for me, is tunneling down into music to see what foundations it's built on. It's disappointing for me, and it's frustrating as well. Now, there were also a few moments in the album where I feel like the overproduction backfired a little bit. In the song We Can Do It, it definitely became just droning and repetitive. And I was just sitting there going, it's not dancing anymore. I'm banging my head on the desk. Now, with that being said, which I say too much as a pivoting point, the production on the album, though, is crisp, crystalline, clear, crunchy. I have all those things down for alliteration. And the production is flawless from a mixing, mastering standpoint. You literally cannot get better than this. And if you want to hear dance music, you want to hear disco music, verging on... It never really verges on EDM. EDM is
I would
much
say
more
it
trance.
verges on it.
No,
it's
EDM,
in the same way that 68 verges on, like, Screamo. They're clearly not, but they're neighbors.
There are perhaps small elements like the synth, but the production is flawless. And this album is worth a listen and maybe even worth a buy just for that production.
I think we should buy it.
And just for... I was impressed as well by this kind of shell, this carapace of electronica, but within there, there is a beating human heart. And you can hear at the core of all this lush soundscape, there is a live band.
Yeah,
totally. You are given that impression, and it's believable. Even if all this stuff was assembled from samples and built up, you'd still have the impression that there is a living, breathing band at the center of that. And then my other criticism of it would be that the ending of the album, the final track, it was disappointing. For an album like this, it's fun, dancey. You kind of have to save some tricks up your sleeve for the last number, and just do something wacky, off the wall, and just finish the party strong. And I just felt like it kind of carried on in the same fashion, and then just ended.
I wouldn't go so far as to say that it's like front loaded, but I would say that a lot of the stronger tracks tend to be towards the beginning.
There's a noticeable, in my opinion, lack of dynamic flow throughout the album. They all start off with, like, now I've just got Nights in the Jungle stuck in my head, and then it's but
we don't need YouTube.
That being said, easily my favorite song.
Said.
Yeah, I know, I say that too much. Thanks for bringing it up. My favorite song on the album is Something About You. Now,
really?
Keep in mind, this is my favorite song. I love this song.
Hold
on. We're going to dive into the lyrics a little bit here first. And then there's also a quote from JK about what the song's about. So, I'm going to go to verse 1. I got a say to think about all the things we did. I couldn't find a way to work it out. I didn't know how to give. It's so tragic to lose that magic. And now I'm alone. I see your smile in every dream. My heart is stoned,
Why do you have to read
baby.
These?
Why'd I have to be so mean? Feel like dancing. taking chances.
It sounds so much better in the
baby,
song.
about you that I can't let go of since that night. And then something, baby, about you that was feeling right. Right.
We talked about
all
Ike
night.
is one of the most.
Some things you don't. Oh, some things you don't think you're missing till you know you want them back so much. Whoa, whoa. Dancing something like I used to do with you. Now here's the best part. Verse 2. I remember we were freaks out on the beach like Nebuchadnezzar.
How is he a freak on the beach?
Sweet love from dusk to dawn. I don't know what that means. Do you?
I think it means that they had
an excellent time playing Tetris or something like that. Till the sky
Pokemon.
ran out of stars. Yeah. Feel like dancing. Feel like dancing. This is my favorite part ever.
Like Candy Crush.
You're like Candy Crush. Candy Crush. And I'm listening to the song and I'm like, there's no way he's actually saying Candy Crush.
I never heard that.
And then I looked and he says Candy Crush. You're like Candy Crush. 2 hits and I was addicted to ya. Baby gets a rush thinking of these night maneuvers.
Again, Tetris, you flip that long piece and slot
And
it
I
right
was
in
like,
there.
who even references Candy Crush in 2017? Or 2016 when these were probably recorded. But, and what I'm saying, even these lyrics, even knowing that that's what he's saying, it cannot diminish my absolute enjoyment of how good that song is. And here's JK's, just quickly, his quote on the song, which I heard him say this. It's sort of loosely based on my own experience, you know? And it's like when you've met someone, but you've got to leave, or one of those shorter romances that you've had, and, you know, you just can't stop thinking about somebody. I wanted people to hook onto the chorus, you know, and just have something that was singable. I kind of wanted that without going, ooh, 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 which is one of the dumbest ways to make people get in onto your thing.
That's fair.
Very fair. I hear it far too much on stuff, and it's a really cheap way of getting people to singing track back. I wanted something for people to get onto. So, I mean, he's done that.
I guess.
He's done that, but, you know, his lyrics are crap. They're absolute crap and trash.
Here's what I come back to. And I think this would be the best way to sum up my thoughts, is we sit here and we pick apart, and I totally agree with everything you said. And if we had just talked about this, if I was listening to our show, paradoxically, and had never heard that album, it doesn't sound very good, and all those things are very true. But then when I turn it on and I blast this album, it's like all sins are forgiven. Like,
it's frustratingly good, nonetheless.
I just think that music is inherently, like, it's inherently joyful, whether it's, you know, a sad song or an angry song. But it's
the joy of creation.
When they's happy songs, man, it's like double happy. No, but in all seriousness, it's just like a grin-inducing album. It's really thrilling to listen to.
You put it on, and I felt like I could dance.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I don't think about the crappy lyrics till after, and that doesn't mean like they're not an issue, but
it just means that you can't enjoy the album on a certain level.
Yeah.
On a different level, and admittedly, it's a shallower level. But on that shallower level, man, is it a ton of fun. And it is great.
Yeah.
And will it become one of my favorites, one of my classics? No.
Probably
will
not.
I put it on every month or two when I'm doing dishes and just like groove all up and down the sink? Yes, I will.
yeah, I kind of want to buy it now.
You're free to do so. Now, Jason, on to the next review, Joel's. And I'll go first.
C-Bon. I will take another cookie.
Okay, Josh.
I've had like probably 7 of these.
Ew.
Well, maybe not
Now,
quite.
we've reviewed several massive classics on the show. We've reviewed Casablanca. We reviewed... did we review Casablanca and Great Gatsby in the same episode? I think we did. Casablanca, Great Gatsby, Joshua Tree. But I think that Jaws is more cemented in popular culture than any of those.
If you go dun 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 dun, like,
I know.
nobody doesn't know what you're doing.
Dun. And to that end, it was really interesting to watch it critically.
We have both watched it before. Let's say that. And you should also describe what Jaws is, even though it's a classic.
I guess so. Jaws is a shark movie. It's set in, oh, darn it, what's the town called? Oh, I can picture the town sign.
I'm pretty sure it's Sudbury.
It starts with an A. I think. Whatever. Okay, so set in this little town, Amity. Oh, Amity. And they're, a tourist town in America, a beach town. People come to stay there, but then there are shark attacks, and then they have to get rid of the shark.
It's Jaws, by the way.
The beauty of the story is how simple it is.
Yeah.
And we've totally lost that for you're talking about, with the Jamiroquai album. One of my gripes of it was the facade of depth. We've really lost beautiful, simple stories like this, well told, Mm-hmm. And now you get your Transformers or whatnot, and they really attempt to play off like they have a deep story or some kind of labyrinthine plot construction, and it's just trash,
Mm-hmm.
And it's not entertaining, and it's not fun, and it's not tense, and it's not engaging.
Dare I say it, a lot of superhero movies are like that too.
Yeah, totally. That's a great point. And this is what I came back to time and time again while I'm sitting there on the couch with you and Dad watching Jaws. Why can't we have blockbusters like this anymore? Where are they? You know what's one that I thought of? Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah, that's true.
A simple plot construction, gorgeously executed, with funny, memorable, kind of touching characters.
Don't get too much into that, because we might review that someday.
Oh, yeah. It's no secret that I love that movie. But we just don't have, and I guess we never really have had that, or people never really have had, a heavy proliferation of amazing blockbusters.
I mean, there was Waterworld.
Yeah, that's true. But Jaws is just such a simple film that focuses on the feeling of living in that, small village, and it nails it really well. That was one of the things that I really took away from it. These small, they're not even cameos. Well, I guess you'd classify them as a cameo, but listening to people speaking to each other in the background, just the exchanges between the villager characters are the foundational to this movie and to the characters and then to the plot.
Not since Fargo have I been so convinced that this is like a real little small town.
Yeah, and there's a good chance it probably is, and they just kind of
but I mean they sold it.
Yeah, I know. I totally know what you're saying. But exactly, it feels like a real location inhabited by real,
believable
quirky,
people,
fun characters. And then of course the shark attacks, and it I think thematically is very important for people to see in this day and age, because it is a movie about hysteria and about a crowd, a mob mentality. Mark Kermode, the foremost film critic in the UK.
Hello to Jason Isaacs.
Amen. What a show. He's fond of saying that Jaws is not a movie about a shark, it's a movie about infidelity. He's wrong. It's because it's based on a book in which one character survives because he didn't sleep with another man's wife, and the one guy, it's implied he died because he did.
That's not...
And I'm like, Mark, we have to evaluate on the basis of it being a standalone piece of art, a film. So anyway, I digress.
We never read the book, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Which, so it's about a shark. But it is also about the mob mentality, hysteria, which now in the United States, with these wild, these ridiculous claims about World War III encroaching and people losing their minds over nothing, is more relevant than ever with the advent of social media. These are themes that we need to be cognizant of. Just today on Facebook, one of my Facebook friends shared a video, and it was like, here's proof that the United States is preparing for a secret war, and it was a train full of tanks going past somebody who is stopped, full of dozens and dozens and dozens of tanks, and then armored vehicles and all this sort of thing.
States never had tanks until now.
And I opened up the comments because I was like, oh wow, that's quite interesting. open up the comments, and there are so many people saying this happens every month. They're going to Santa Monica. I can show you where this is. This is ridiculous. And people just spreading fear. And that's what Jaws is all about. There's a beautiful device that they use, and it's people are constantly talking over each other in Jaws. There's always a conversational din.
Kind of like our podcast.
A haze, exactly. We should have called it that. Conversational din.
Oh, I thought you were just going to say Jaws the podcast.
No. But there's a conversational din and a haze kind of surrounding all the conversations, everything that's going on. There's always people chattering in the background, even on the beach in the scenes when people are supposed to be relaxing. That's how the tension's built, is that roar, that building roar of conversation that wells up.
Now, I haven't watched a ton of horror movies, but I gotta say, I think it's amazing that this, and it's not really a horror movie per se, but I think it's interesting that this movie has so many horror elements when it mostly takes place like on bright sunny days. They build the tension in this really like not subtle but almost like subversive way, like very well, in that like everyone's standing around, they're fine, they're safe, but like the tension's kind of mounting.
And that's something that horror movies just don't understand anymore. They think that in order to pull off a good scare, you hide something in the dark and then you turn the lights on.
Yeah.
And that the true fear comes from seeing something, knowing it's there, and not being able to avoid it or not being able to get out of the way.
My laptop's wigging out, so I might lose all of my Jaws notes.
All right. Richard Dreyfuss as the marine biologist is good. Awesome. I think he's my favorite character probably in the film. But the three central performances, I can't remember the names of the other actors offhand right now, but the captain and the sheriff, they make a great trio.
Yeah.
They really do. And none of them seem stupid or overshadowed or anything like that.
I like how Dreyfuss kind of buddies up with the sheriff because he doesn't like the captain, and the sheriff doesn't really like the captain either, but he's like sometimes sort of annoyed by Richard Dreyfuss, by like the professor, and the captain kind of doesn't really like either of them, but they're kind of forced out at sea together.
And it's a very literary book.
Yep.
Or book, jeez. It's a very literary
I wouldn't have caught that.
Film, which makes sense because it's based on a book, but you have, Old Man in the Sea, you got Moby Dick, classically.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of these great man versus fish stories. And
Man at Sea. You could throw Life of Pi in there, even though it came much later.
Treasure Island in there. There's
20,000 Leagues Above the Sky.
Well, thanks for that.
Not everyone's going to be a winner.
But and I just feel like that lends itself to the classic feel of the film, and it's that grounded simplicity executed perfectly that makes it so excellent. And obviously the score by John Williams. I'm pretty sure it's John Williams who did Star Wars. The guy is more of a meme than any meme. You got the Star Wars score, you got the Jaws score.
Yeah.
That's it as far as I'm concerned. I can't believe that one guy scored both.
Yeah.
That's a very nice tiny little nick you have.
I have a little owie on my arm.
Wow. And he's just sitting there staring at it. And
well, I hadn't seen it.
He's subtly flexing, and then he keeps looking up at me.
I'm not subtly flexing.
Yeah, it's not even subtly right. And then he keeps looking up at me to, sympathy, brother. Alms for the poor. It'll be amputated before sunrise. Okay.
Wow. I bring you cookies. You're so ungrateful. Like, I made those brownies last time. You just laughed at me because you didn't appreciate my hard work.
To be fair, everybody laughed at you.
I drove exactly the opposite direction I needed to drive because I figured goodness me would be closed to go to the Beechwood Zares. I went and I got cookies. There was a man there wearing a tie.
Wow.
There were people waiting there.
Oh, wow.
There were other people in the store. And there were lobsters.
Wow.
And frankly, I don't think anything helped me very much.
See Olivia there?
No.
Oh. Okay. Yes, we know people who work at supermarkets because we're plugged in thanks to this podcast.
I never pay for anything at a supermarket because I just know all the right people.
Robert Zares for sponsoring this show.
And Lloyd Food Basics.
Harold No Frills. And Jenny Walmart.
Walton is their
Also-
last name. I know that.
Shut up. Also, thanks to the king of Admiral Akbar or whatever we said.
King of Admiral
What was
Akbar.
this small country we chose?
Kuwait.
Kuwait. I'm sorry, Your Highness.
Admiral Akbar is from...
Forgive my...
It's a trap.
Yes. Okay. Jaws. Do you have your notes?
Yep.
Read them to me. Bring me your notes.
I think Jaws is like a total classic. It would be pretty hard not to love this movie. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, exactly. Like, going into this, we're both gonna like it. I think the interesting discussion happens in why you like it.
Yeah. So, I actually think that Jaws and Automaton are an interesting pairing because with Automaton, I didn't know if I would like it, and in some ways I actually thought I wouldn't like it. With Jaws, I was like, I know I'm gonna like it, and now the discussion becomes more why and what we like and what we didn't because we both like it. I don't think it's one of my favorite movies of all time, but I think it's one of the classic movies of all time. The movie was shot to look timeless, which is good, but it also kind of makes the cinematography lack like a really strong identity, I felt. It wasn't like Dad was watching Better Call Saul today, which in my opinion is one of the best shot shows ever. And you look at that and there's such a strong character behind the camera angles and the beautiful depth of field and colors. Jaws doesn't really have that.
That's kind of Steven Spielberg's thing, though. Steven Spielberg has that timeless, vaguely nostalgic feel to all of his best works.
And it's really not bad, but I just found it to be a little bit too transparent as someone who likes photography. I want to think about the cinematography. Drive was another perfect example of like every shot was so well thought out and just like so perfect. And then Jaws, yeah, it's not bad. It gets the job done, but it's probably the weakest part in my opinion.
There is also a theory, tell me what you think of this, of that when film editing is done really well, you don't notice it. When a film is flawlessly edited, it just flows.
I heard Kermit and Mayo talking about that the other day, actually. I don't agree. I feel like I want to notice the editing.
I guess that's something...
I want to appreciate the visual beauty in a movie.
I guess that's something that as, artists ourselves, and I guess we could both class ourselves as visual artists as well, that maybe it is something that we would actively engage with the same way that a writer might engage with a well-written dialogue on the first viewing and find pleasure in that.
I think that a well-shot movie should, like, the shots shouldn't get in your way, and they shouldn't. There's absolutely a thing as taking it too far where it's just like these shallow depth of field close-ups and the shot's not really interesting except that it's so like creamy, like a shallow depth of field.
I'm just uncomfortable with the term creamy.
It's just this gooey, creamy mess. Just focused
like that's
on...
a marshmallow, like an overcooked marshmallow.
Yeah, nobody wants an overcooked marshmallow.
Okay, if you see too much bokeh, then the depth of field is too shallow. I'm sorry.
That was
just go.
A made-up ethnicity.
Just go. Don't look back.
I think that Jaws himself or herself, we never confirmed.
That's gender non-binary.
Yeah, that's true. Z Jaws.
It's non-sexed.
Yeah.
Which means it's a virgin.
Do you think Jaws was a Christian?
No. Christians don't eat people, Jason.
That's what you think. I think Jaws, the shark, is what I'm talking about now, looks really surprisingly good. Before I had ever seen the movie, I totally expected it would be like this inflatable, like rubberized, like... And I don't think it looks quite as good as movies today, but I think that Jaws looks shockingly good, and like, if you didn't think about it, like, it would never... It's not like the X-Files where you see an alien and you're like, that's clearly like maple syrup and a shamrock,
That is how they made the aliens in X-Files. Very good. I'm surprised you know that anecdote. Speaking of anecdotes, this one's actually true. One of the reasons why Jaws looks so good is because their budget was so small. And this is true. they wanted to do a lot more close-up with the fake rubber shark, but they didn't have the money to do so. So they had to rely on just catching glimpses of it sliding past in the water, which, oh my word, that's a million times more scary. Just seeing glimpses of it slithering around the boat, you know, when they're in it, it's like, ugh. And we all have, I think, as human beings, unless you're weird, a fear of creatures from the water, predators in the water, because we are not at home in the water. And when you can't see them, but you know that they're stalking you, and you're right out in the wide open space that is the surface of a body of water, it's terrifying, even just to think about it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Shark.
I was...
Fake shark.
Yeah, I'll say, as a child, as a young child, my dear brother didn't want to go into the swimming pool for fear of a shark.
No.
No?
I wasn't afraid of a shark. What would happen to me is I get in a pool or body of water, and this can still happen to me today to some extent. And if I'm floating around happy as a clam in any body of water, could be a bathtub, well, not, it couldn't be a bathtub, but any largish body of water.
Would a hot tub do it?
No. It has to be like at least a swimming pool size.
Okay.
You start thinking about, wow, like really anything could be beneath me. Like I just would place myself in that situation of imagining myself hunted by some sort of aquatic predator, and you just think how powerless you'd be in that situation. And that would really scare me. Just the thought of it as a child. Nothing weird about that.
I think the movie is actually very well paced. It's never boring, but it's actually not breathlessly packed with action.
And you get that with all classic movies.
Yeah. And a lot of modern, like, superhero... Now, there are some superhero movies I like, but a lot of them I think are really overdone. And I think a lot of them are just too action-packed for their own good.
Too formulaic, too.
And it loses impact. But Jaws is like a lot of lead-up, short action sequence, and a lot of cool-down. And it's perfect, and they don't drag it out too much.
And even the final, I guess, from the point at which the three main characters get on the boat and then go to hunt Jaws, that would be the final action sequence.
Yeah.
But even within that, there's rest periods.
Yeah.
Like long ones, too.
Or
at least significant.
And I think the movie really surprised me because I just didn't expect it to be as good in, like, good movie ways. I thought it would just be like a cheesy blockbuster.
Yeah.
But there's a scene when they're out there looking for Jaws, when they're all inside the cabin of the ship, the three of them, and they're, like, drinking and laughing and telling stories. And it does make you more emotionally invested. Like, I'm not going to pretend that this is a tearjerker or anything, but you do, like, enjoy the characters. Like, you start to kind of side with them and, like, the captain's a little weird.
And that's what I mean when I say that it's very literary as well, because that's the sort of thing that a novel or a book lets you in on, is it lets you mesh and bond with the characters a little bit more than especially most blockbuster films do. And Jaws is an out-and-out blockbuster. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. It was the father of all blockbusters, really. Yeah. But there's not a whiff of art house movie about it.
No. And there are a couple other what I would consider invalid complaints that I could level against it. Like, I think the mayor's reticence to shut down the beach when, like, it's like 3 people have been eaten and he's like, we gotta keep it open.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not even remotely convincing, but I just don't know that we really need to hold the movie accountable for that.
I think too it's a you also have to think of the characters as not just characters but also representations of different things. So he might be greed or he might stand for just the government in general. And to that, I mean, I do know what you mean. Like, it is a ridiculous...
That's what I said. I don't know that it's really valid, but it's just, like, you know...
Perhaps it's overplayed. There's a little too much cheese that he puts on the roll. But, I mean, I think as a symbolic sort of thing, I still think that works really well.
There are drugs in the movie. I don't support drugs.
There is. Pass it to the left, man.
There's...
That's an interesting opening. Is that how it opens?
Yeah. They do a dab on the weed.
There's no dabbing involved.
No.
It's just more like a blunt Well, no, it's just a joint.
I don't know.
I think it's just a joint.
Who knows?
I think a blunt's when you mix joint with tobacco. And it's supposed to hit you faster.
Does this mean we've exhausted anything useful to talk about?
You sound exhausted.
It is. So, I woke up today at around 7:30.
Hold on. Let me get out my violin.
I started my work before I had breakfast. I worked solid till about like half an hour before I had to leave.
My life is so
at like 6:50. So then I did that for like half an hour. Went out, did jujitsu. It was a really hard workout. Came back here, recorded this, and I feel like I've been decently high energy the whole time. And now I'm ready to eat one final cookie, drive off into the sunset of my day.
Okay, here, I'm putting it in your mouth.
No, I don't want to eat the whole thing at once.
Well, you don't have to, but I'm putting it in your mouth.
Okay.
There you go.
Thanks.
Ate it like a bird. Well, then don't leave the next one till the last minute.
Was not my fault.
It was your fault. You know that it was your fault.
No, it wasn't.
It was. Ladies and gentlemen, it was his fault. Okay, you've been listening to the Good Ship Brothership. Thank you very much for tuning in. We hope that you enjoyed what we did here today. Please hit us up. You can comment on the YouTube video or find us on Facebook. Let us know if you didn't like it, what you'd change. We're trying to get better at this whole thing. Next episode, in 2 weeks' time, we will be talking about Journey, the video game.
By that game
Which
company.
is a very arty and critically acclaimed cinematic video game experience thing.
And that will also be, in a certain way, a double topic, because it's very infamous for its beautiful music score. I own the score on vinyl, and so we'll probably be listening to that and discussing the music in of itself as well.
Yep, that's true. And we'll be reviewing that alongside Bring Me Your Love, the hit album by the artist, I think, City and Color.
We have no experience really with City and Color at all.
I've been told to listen to that man's music multiple times because people think I don't know.
I've played Journey. I love Journey. No secret. Grant has not experienced it. So it's going to be kind of an interesting discussion. I'll be the pundit.
A discussion?
A discussion. I'll discuss. We'll discuss. I will be the pundit. You will be the apprentice.
Yes.
As always.
And then Kendrick Lamar's new album, Damn, which has dropped.
Period.
Damn.
Half a period.
Half a period. I didn't even put a period there.
Can you type half a period?
I cannot type half a period. I can't cut it off on the Photoshop. Damn, Kendrick Lamar's new album has dropped to uproarious. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Uproarious. Acclaim.
I have purposefully held off listening to any of it except his singles.
Okay, so we're burning up time here. This is just supposed to be.
So I'm going to have a fresh opinion.
Okay. Zip it. Okay, so Kendrick Lamar's album Damn has dropped to uproarious complaint. No. I've ordered the CD. It's on its way to us tomorrow when it releases. I've heard it already, but we will give it a quick listen together. We will do a knee-jerks on it, and then we will gestate and give it a proper review, unlike these other 12-hour quote-unquote review hacks who put up their bilge on social media just to get views. We're not here for the views, ladies and gentlemen, but we are. Please view. Please like. Please watch this 4 times.
We can get those like Dairy Farmers Association ads. There's like the cat playing with a piece of cheese.
Or do cry over spilt milk.
Yeah.
It's Canadian milk. These are the ads we have in Canada.
So
it's just like freeze frames of milk spilling and then like people
Someone crying
operatically crying with tears.
Aren't they crying milk?
No, you don't cry milk. Not even cows cry milk.
Okay, if you drink
Ladies-
enough milk, would you be able
Ladies and gentlemen,
Cry
it's
milk.
been a pleasure. I'm so sorry that
Do you
this is how
think
we had to
there's
leave
anyone
it.
who could cry milk? Cry me a milk river, baby.
Cry me a dairy farm. Film, music, gaming, literature, and
Turbo speeding.